What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So after all the popularity revolving around Robinhood's 3% checking and savings accounts and all the excitement and hysteria revolving around that and everybody losing their minds and also issues with the SIPC, I felt it was worth making a video addressing some of the other high-interest checking and savings accounts out there that are fairly competitive to Robinhood that also happen to be FDIC insured. Because offering 3% on a checking or savings account is really nothing new, and many other banks out there offer very close to this or even more than this while actually being FDIC insured. So you can sleep well at night knowing that your money is protected up to $250,000, and you don't have to really worry about whether or not a newer company is going to be insolvent or something happens or whatever it is. You can sleep better at night. So with that said, let's get into my personal favorite high interest savings accounts out there that are fairly competitive to Robinhood while also offering FDIC insurance. So we'll start off with number one. This is the bank I pretty much use for everything. It's my personal favorite out there, and that would be Ally Bank. And right now, as of mid-December 2018, they offer a 2% annual return on your money on their online savings account. And with this, there's absolutely no strings attached. There's no crazy conditions to meet. There's no minimum balances. There's no fees. There's no weird debit card requirements. And best of all, there's no waiting list of over 700,000. All you have to do is simply open up an account, put your money in, and just that's it. You enjoy that sweet, sweet 2% interest. Now I gotta say, when I first started moving all my money over to Ally, it was a bit of a concern not to have any physical branches to go to because I was so used to going and seeing someone face to face at the bank. But I gotta say that I got used to it very quickly, and I have not actually been into a physical bank branch and probably over a year at this point. Now the idea of actually going into a physical bank just seems so old school to me, and I can't even imagine any reason why I would need to do it. It just seems inconvenient at this point because 99.999% of the stuff you would ever need to do could be done online or through their app. And this is actually the same with just about every single bank out there who has a good mobile app. You don't need to actually go in branch anymore for pretty much anything. But not only that, I have a feeling that Ally is going to be raising their rates a little bit more just to be more competitive with some of these other banks I'm about to mention. Now, I'll guess it's not going to be much. It's probably going to be raising it from 2% to 2.05 to 2.15, but still that's better than not having that. And just as an honorary mention when it comes to this, I want to throw in one other account that's very similar to Ally that I have to mention, and that would be the American Express savings account. And with this, they offer the same 2% interest return exactly like Ally does. I've also been a customer of American Express since 2012, and my experience with them has been nothing short of amazing. Their accounts also have no fees, no minimums, no weird fine print, no gotchas, no nothing like that. It's just a great way to get a very good 2% return. Oh, and then I forgot to mention, it's also FDIC insured. And then I gotta mention one last honorary mention, and that would be the Capital One 360 savings account. They also offer a no-fee account that gives 2% interest, but they're not quite as good as the last two just because to get that 2%, you have to keep a minimum balance of $10,000, which to some people is just gonna be way too much. So that's why there's no real sense going with Capital One 360 when you can get the exact same thing with much better terms with Ally or American Express. Now second, we're gonna be getting a little bit better than Ally, American Express, and Capital One 360, and that is Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Now, even though I don't have one of these accounts myself, I have received a lot of comments from people who have nothing but amazing things to say about them. And again, it's another bank with no fees, no minimums, and also, drum roll, no wait list. And the reason that Marcus by Goldman Sachs is a little bit better than Ally and American Express and Capital One 360 is that instead of offering a 2% return, they give you a 2.05% return. But hey, you know what? It's all free money at this point, so if you can get an extra 1/20% for the exact same amount of work it takes to set up an Ally bank account or American Express or Capital One 360, you may as well just take a little bit more money. And that means on a $10,000 deposit, that extra 1/20% equates to an extra $5 per year. So with that extra $5, you can go and enjoy yourself a free Starbucks iced caramel macchiato before taxes once a year. per every $10,000 you deposit. And when it comes to getting a 2.05% return, there's one other company out there that I gotta mention if I haven't mentioned enough companies already, and that would be Synchrony Bank. Now, from what I can tell, this is pretty much the exact same as Marcus by Goldman Sachs. I don't really see any differentiation between the two, so at this point, it really comes down to whatever company and bank you prefer more, but the terms and everything are pretty much exactly the same. So at least between the two, you have two good options to choose from if you want 2.05% interest. So third, let's step it up a notch. Let's get a little crazy here because I found another bank that offers you 2.35% interest, and that would be PNC Bank. This is pretty much the highest return I've been able to find on a savings account with no fees, no minimums, no weird requirements, no wait list of 700,000, and also that still has FDIC insurance. This is, for the most part, the best one I can really find. Now, one really cool thing about this bank that I have to mention that I haven't seen really any other banks doing is that it looks as though you can fund this account up to $2,000 with a credit card. So this means that if you decide to open up the American Express Gold Card and get the 50,000 points associated with that by meeting the $2,000 minimum spend, you can literally do that by putting $2,000 in PNC Bank and just funding it with the credit card. Now, if that sounds too good to be true, there's a few little things with this one that I do have to mention. Number one is that if you close your account within the first 6 months, they charge you a $25 fee. And you might be thinking to yourself, why would I ever close my account within 6 months? And $25 isn't really that much anyway. Here's what I read. It seems like when I was doing my research on this bank that the people who used PNC Bank for other banking services were just not that happy with them. We can take a look at some of the reviews here from people that use PNC Bank for other things besides their 2.35% savings account, and they're just, I guess they're a little bit less than impressed. From what I've looked into, it appears as though if you just use them for their online savings account to get the 2.35%, you should be okay. But if you want to use them for just about everything else, it doesn't really seem that good. And if anyone here is watching this video right now and has PNC Bank and has a good experience or a bad experience, just let me know in the comments below. It's got to be a few of you guys, and if you guys give a good review, I'm going to heart the comment so it kind of goes to the top, and other people could see that. So I definitely encourage you guys, with actually any bank here, that if you guys have had a personal experience with them, good or bad, just comment below, let me know your thoughts. Now, those banks I just mentioned are pretty much the banks that are available to anyone in the United States without any weird requirements, so those banks so far are going to appeal to the widest audience possible. Now, I gotta say that at the time I'm making this video, anything offering more than like a 2.35% return just seems a little bit sketchy, and as many of you guys know, I put a lot of research into making a video like this, and I wouldn't mention anything that I didn't feel personally comfortable doing myself. For example, I found a company called My Savings Direct that offers a 2.4% interest rate. But when I started doing some research about them, there were so many customer complaints saying that this was just a teaser rate, and their actual interest rate was reduced after a few months. There were also so many other banks I was researching that say they offer a 2.4 to 2.5% interest rate on their accounts, but customer complaints were non-stop that they then just reduced these rates after like a month or two. So for that reason, I figured there's no sense in me mentioning any of these companies out there because it seems like none of them I was able to find had anything but just really bad reviews. And when I see that, I just don't feel comfortable even mentioning it. And also, I feel like it's just worth it to sacrifice a little bit of money. I mean, we're talking about like 0.1% here for a great company that doesn't have hundreds of customer complaints. Now, in terms of banks offering more than a 3% interest and offering more than what you can get with Robinhood, the answer is yes, this does exist, and yes, you can do this. Now, usually for banks to offer this, they have preset requirements. For instance, it might only be up to a few $1,000s. It might have an account minimum. You might have to use a few debit account purchases. You might have to enable direct deposit. It usually doesn't come without some sort of hurdle that you have to overcome if you want to get like a 4% interest rate, or 4.5% interest rate, or a 3.5% interest rate. But with that said, I figured I would mention a few of those accounts here that would either appeal to the widest amount of people possible, or also just offer like really insane interest rates that might actually be worth it. For example, T-Mobile is offering a 4% return for any T-Mobile customers up to the first $3,000. Now, of course, they do have a minimum deposit requirement, but if you're cool with that and you have a T-Mobile mobile account anyway, it might be worth it just to get the extra $10 a month. Another one I gotta mention is One American Bank, which is offering a 3.5% interest rate up to the first $10,000. Or Consumers Credit Union is offering a 5% return up to $10,000 on their checking account. But again, all of these usually come with a bit of a catch. Usually these banks require you to make like a minimum amount of debit card purchases every single month. They require you to do like direct deposit or meet other weird things, and usually most of the time it's not really worth the hassle. For some people it might be, but for most I'd say probably not. Now, other high interest savings accounts certainly do exist without a lot of these crazy requirements, but usually they're very regional and usually they come with smaller banks and credit unions. For example, if you're in California, enjoy 3% interest up to the first $2,000. In Massachusetts, enjoy 2.7% up to $25,000, but again, almost all of these have minimum requirements that need to be met. Now, I wish I could take credit for finding all of these regional accounts, but I have to give a huge shout out to a website that's helped me out tremendously with this, and that is the website The Doctor of Credit. So if you guys are curious, the link to that is in the description, and thank you, The Doctor of Credit, for having this amazing website that gave me so much research to do from there. Really appreciate it. So while Robinhood right now seems like the best option in terms of having no account minimum, no fees, no weird requirements, and basically offering like a very good 3% return, is it worth it to put your money in a relatively new startup company that does not offer SIPC insurance until they're able to maybe work that out? My answer to that is probably not at this point. It's probably not worth the risk, considering that you can get a 2 to 2.35% return fairly safely with FDIC insurance using one of these other online banks I mentioned. And for some other people who maybe have access to some of these regional accounts that offer 3% or higher returns and you can meet the minimums, then it doesn't even make sense for you to really use Robinhood, because you can get a higher return if you happen to fall in one of those categories. And like I mentioned, you get FDIC insurance as well. And of course, I do have to mention that this video is not meant to be any sort of Robinhood bashing video by any means, because I am a fan of Robinhood. I like Robinhood. I have an account with Robinhood, and as long as they're able to work out all of these SIPC regulations, or maybe they're able to get FDIC insurance, if that's the case, I'm putting my money in Robinhood. But until then, these are just some other options for you to have at your disposal, just to give you a little bit more peace of mind that even though they might not offer a 3% return, they're all extremely competitive, and really the difference of like 1/20th of 1%, or sometimes it's not really that much money we're talking about here. And also, you got to put it in perspective here that the difference between PNC Bank and Robinhood is only 0.65%. And on a $20,000 deposit, that only works out to be an extra $10.83 every single month with Robinhood. $10 a month. $10 a month is basically what you end up paying or losing by not using Robinhood to get the assurance of FDIC insurance. To me, that just seems totally worth it to have the backing of a stronger bank than risk anything for any amount of money just for like an extra $10 a month per $20,000. So I hope this video gives you a few other options to consider and think of for anyone who wants to make more than a 2% return. These are a few of the banks that I researched that look pretty good that I would personally like myself. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you watched the very end, you haven't already smashed that like button, make sure to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, smash your screen. I really appreciate it. Also, feel free to add me on Snapchat and Instagram. I post there pretty much daily, so if you want to be a part of it there and see my newly decorated olive tree that's out front, make sure to check that out. Thank you again for watching, and until next time.